welcome to magnificent Brussels. And welcome to another episode of We Like to Cruise and Travel.
In this episode, we're European river cruising again, aren't we lucky? This time with Uniworld. We've never cruised with them before. 6-star luxury. Where are we going?
5 countries in 15 days, the Rhine, Moselle, and the Belgium Grand Discovery.
So sit back. We hope you enjoy our episode. And after watching it, you might consider cruising with Uniworld also.
We're Andrew and Leonie, and we like to cruise and travel.
Join us on our travels all over the world as we review a range of cruises, cruise lines, land tours, all sorts of shore excursions, and a range of hotels and resort holidays.
And remember to like and subscribe. Welcome to this episode, which is the second in a 2-part series on Uniworld. Part 1, we delved into the Uniworld experience, what it's like to cruise with Uniworld. And we discussed whether Uniworld lived up to its moniker of being a luxury floating boutique river ship, experiencing a true 6-star service. So you'll have to watch that episode to find what we thought.
And Google Monica.
We're actually recording this as we're cruising down the Rhine on our last day. Oh, sad. So we've got the Rhine behind us and we're actually recording from SS Victoria's vintage room, which is their private dining room.
Suffice to say that we loved our Uniworld onboard experience. Mm-hmm. The ship, the service, the food, the beverage, everything was excellent. So we won't talk about any of that. You can watch Uniworld Part 1 for that.
But what about the itinerary? What about the daily shore excursions? Did the ports live up to expectations? What parts of this itinerary did we like best?
In this episode, we talk about the itinerary we undertook. It might inspire you to want to take the same cruise in the future. Ours was a gem. 15-day itinerary that Uniworld calls the Rhine, Moselle and Belgium Grand Discovery. For 5 countries in 15 days, and could be 6 countries if you choose the excursion to Luxembourg. We didn't, but we'll tell you why later.
On this itinerary, we stopped at many of the ports less travelled. We cruised the canals of Belgium and the Netherlands and the picturesque Moselle, which all see much less cruise traffic than many other European river cruise itineraries.
Yeah.
In doing this, many of the picture postcard towns we visited were actually free from the tourist hordes, which I really liked, that seemed to have overtaken so many parts of Europe, particularly in the prime cruising months of June to September.
Yeah, it's hard because I always think we're one of those tourists, but it's not so fun when you've got to do what we call the MCG shuffle like this. So
I really like that about this itinerary, but we'll tell you more. That.
Now, we spoke to Alice Ager before we left, Managing Director of Uniworld Australia and New Zealand, and she took this itinerary up big time. So have a watch.
We're with Alice Ager, Managing Director, Australasia for Uniworld. Alice, 5 countries in 15 days, the Rhine, Moselle and Belgium Grand Discovery. What a trip.
I'm so excited for you guys. I wish I was coming with you. I think this is one of our underrated itineraries that we don't talk about enough. And I think you're going to see some incredibly special...
What do you think are the highlights?
Oh, well, to think that you're going to finish in the Swiss Alps with a picnic on, up in the mountains. You're going to go through the Dutch canals. I think the Moselle is one of the quieter rivers in Europe. So I think you're going to have a really special experience.
And how long have Uniworld been doing this itinerary?
Yeah, so it's a new one. Mm-hmm. So it's a brand new one over 15 days. So we've spread it out to give you more time to experience it. And you're on a new ship too. So it's going to be...
The SS Victoria.
The SS Victoria.
Fantastic.
Yeah, she's stunning.
So you've heard from Alice. Let's just say we were super excited to be undertaking this itinerary. Also the beginning of a long trip, and you're always super pumped at the beginning, I think. We had pretty high expectations of what this itinerary might deliver.
So let's take you through a map of the route of this itinerary. The cruise started in Brussels, Belgium. We then moved on one day at a time to each of Antwerp, Maastricht, Roermond.
That was all, Belgium and the Netherlands. Yep.
Yep. Then Dusseldorf, Cologne, Cochem, Trier, Bernkastel, Koblenz and Boppard, Rudesheim, Speyer,
Speyer, I think they said. That was all Germany.
Speyer, Strasbourg, and we finished in Basel, Switzerland. So the countries we cruised through were Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, France, and Switzerland. There was also an included free tour to a sixth country, Luxembourg, for those that wanted to go, but we elected to go to the Roman gem, which is Trier, instead. So it was 5 countries for us. I guess we'll just have to cruise again to go to Luxembourg.
We were very tempted to go to Luxembourg, but Pete said no, go to Trier if you haven't seen it. And
we do love our Roman towns, but
and
keep watching.
we also saw several UNESCO World Heritage sites on this trip.
We did.
So let's start with day 1, Brussels. Day 1, embarkation day. So after flying into Brussels, the capital of Belgium, we took the opportunity to sample some of Brussels' best sights and treats. We had been to Brussels before, so the top of our list was the Old Town Market Square, the Grand Place. Magnificent, built in the 15th century. The town hall is a Gothic masterpiece. The square is surrounded by various ornate guild halls built in Baroque style. Now, Andrew, actually it was a really hot day that day and that gold was glinting. Andrew, you particularly like Brussels.
What's not to like?
Yeah. You were keen to sample something that Belgium is pretty famous for. So tell us about that.
We found a great little pub. We sat outdoors. As you said, it was warm.
I think it was about 32.
We had a Belgian beer each and some French fries. What can you tell me about our sail away from Brussels?
Port in Brussels is very industrial.
It is.
But
it was probably more fascinating.
Industrial.
It was probably more fascinating to me because you could see that these canals are actually alive with industry. That was very interesting to me.
It is interesting for us as Australians because we come from a geographically very large country, and freight is transported through the country via road by massive trucks.
It is, and the canals are alive and well, and I'd never really seen that before. So for me, being a nautical junkie, I couldn't get enough of that. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point of difference from what we're used to.
Day 2 was our day in the Baroque masterpiece that is Antwerp in Belgium, probably better known as the diamond capital of the world, although sadly there were no diamonds for you on this trip. We had never visited Antwerp and were surprised at how beautiful the old town is, particularly the market square, with the stepped roof lines that like we've previously seen in Amsterdam.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Antwerp has a castle called the Hetstein, and it was built way back in 1225, which I think is amazing, and it sits on the banks of the Scheldt River.
We had a guide for the day, as we did every day.
He was great.
His name, they were different in every town. His name was Bart. He walked us past cathedrals and churches. It was a Sunday, so the bells were ringing. We love our church bells. We sat down as part of the tour and sampled the lightest and fluffiest Belgian waffles.
Yeah, they were really nice.
Oh, they're beautiful. The old town is pedestrian free, as most of them are. Sometimes not till 11 a.m, but they are. It was Sunday morning, so everything was shut, so it felt like it was tourist free, and we had the town to ourselves. We'd never been to Antwerp before, and we loved it.
Jumping back on board the nautical theme, Antwerp is actually Europe's second busiest port after Rotterdam.
Yeah.
So we spent a pleasant couple of hours winding our way through various canals, dodging massive container ships, some of the vision I've put up there. I was, for one, entranced at how big and how long such a ship as the Victoria could manoeuvre itself, literally turning on right angles as it was making its way through this series of canals and waterways.
Yeah, they're a very clever team. There's 3 captains on board that take shifts, and
they know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. Thanks for talking with us today, Captain Mihai. So how long have you been a river captain for?
Over 20 years.
How do you find captain steering a ship this size on the rivers with all the other river traffic?
The ship is high tech. We have a very good propulsion, turning 300, 360. Pump jet also, we can move in all directions at the same time. It's very maneuverable.
Mm. And what do you think about this itinerary? What are highlights for you?
And itinerary, actually all. If you start from Brussels, Antwerp, Maastricht is very nice area. You go to the Rhine, you go to the Moselle. Moselle is fantastic, and Rhine Gorge.
Yeah, that's right. No need to say any more. And this is quite a long journey. How long do we travel over the 2 weeks?
Altogether, it's around 1,400 kilometers.
Yeah. So some sailing at night, some sailing during the day.
Yes, sailing is nice.
Yeah.
People like.
Yeah, the scenic sailing is lovely. And locks. There's a lot of locks on this journey too.
We have also 44 locks.
Wow, that's incredible. Day 3 was our day in Maastricht, also known as Paris of the Netherlands. Here our ship docked literally a few metres from the centre of town on the Maas River. And we had a glorious day walking in and around Maastricht, which is university town. And we did dodge a few bikes. We were in the Netherlands after all. We started with a walking tour of the old town that included passing by the remnants of the original Roman town walls, which as usual blew our minds with how amazing the Romans were. We also saw the impressive Basilica of Our Lady of Peace, which was built in the 11th and 12th centuries.
When Napoleon marched through Maastricht, he closed almost all of the churches down, but one of them, built in the mid-1300s, has today been turned into a bookshop. We actually went inside. It's also got a cafe inside, and it was really interesting to see this, what was derelict, they told us, for nearly a couple of 100 years, is now right in the middle of town and being used for a good purpose.
Yep. Yeah, and we heard a lot about Napoleon and also Louis XIV, and we'll come to that, who wrecked both of them.
They wrecked a
lot of things, yeah. Maastricht is famous for the treaty that bears its name that helped forge the European Union in the early 1990s, and it's been made famous, in Australia anyway, by one of its residents, Andre Rieu, who has had a series of concerts in the town centre. It's his birthplace, or his home anyway, that were televised around the world, and we've actually seen Andre Rieu in Melbourne. So for me, it was very special to go to Maastricht.
Yeah, look, we also love Maastricht because it felt like it was tourist-free. The bridges and the Maas River were picture postcard on the day we visited.
It was a beautiful day that day.
It was a beautiful day. Our ship, the SS Victoria, docked right in the middle of town, and we were just steps away from strolling the town happily, as we did, for hours that day, taking in all the sights, and we were actually pretty sorry to leave at the end of the day. It was actually a great visit. Yeah,
and a perfect river cruising day where we had the included walking tour. We went back to the ship for lunch, and then we went back,
did our own thing,
ourselves in the afternoon, and went back to where we wanted to and wandered, which is a beauty of river cruising.
Day 4 was our day in Roermond, still in the Netherlands, although very close to the German border. Roermond was described by our cruise director, Pete, as a shopper's heaven. A massive outlet mall has been set up recently, mainly catering to Germans, and the town is today famous for its shopping. We took the opportunity for some exercise, and specifically bike riding. We opted for the optional included bike excursion with Uniworld, and it was terrific to see that as we exited the ship at roughly 9 a.m, on the dock our guides were waiting for us with what looked like a row of brand new sparkling bicycles.
We had a pretty easy bike ride. In fact, this was a very easy bike ride.
A beginner's bike ride.
Yeah, very much beginners, through a mixture of old town, country, and some of the higher end parts of Roermond. The bikes are very comfortable. Really like the seat on this bike. The guides kept our small group together at all times. We had plenty of stops, and as I said, I'd say the ride was very easy. Day 5, we crossed the border and found ourselves in Germany, where we spent a few days. Our first stop in Germany was in Dusseldorf. Here we also opted for the active excursion, and we joined the bike tour.
We did.
Uniworld's model for bike tours is to outsource the excursion to a professional and local bike tours company. So again, we docked in Dusseldorf and bikes, guides and helmets were ready on the dock.
Unlike Roermond, our bike ride in Dusseldorf was a much more serious affair. We actually rode about 25 kilometres along the banks of the Rhine. About halfway, we crossed the Rhine River on a ferry punt.
Yeah, that was
ferry
really
boat,
fun.
Which it was, and it was. I'd never done that before with a bike, so I liked that. And we visited a medieval town called Kaiserwerth, which has a ruined castle that dates back to the 1100s. We then had to ride back to Dusseldorf, and all up, we were probably gone from the ship for about 3 hours. I'd have to say that this was a ride for people with a higher level of fitness. There was no option to use an e-bike today or on any day with Uniworld. Point to make is don't do the bike rides unless you've got some level of biking ability.
We'll come back to that. So anyway, got back. We were happy that we'd done the ride. It was terrific doing the punt and the scenery that we saw on either side of the Rhine. So had a shower, got changed and spent the late afternoon, which it got quite warm, strolling the banks of the Rhine and walking around Dusseldorf's old town. It was a balmy evening. There was people spilling out of pubs and cafes everywhere. And
It actually looked like a really nice place for a beer.
it did.
Day 6 was our day in Cologne. Cologne is dominated by the Dom, its cathedral, once the tallest building in the world. It is still today the tallest double-spire church in the world.
That's incredible.
It is. Miraculously spared from the destruction that otherwise ravaged poor old Cologne during World War II, Cologne Cathedral remains the jewel in the crown of the city. You can't go to Cologne without paying a visit to that magnificent cathedral.
We opted to explore on our own and we visited the Chocolate Museum. So we learnt, and as I said, we did that on our own independently, booked the tickets online. We learnt all about chocolate manufacturing and the growing and harvesting of the cacao, I think you call it, bean.
Yep.
There was a great exhibition. There was a small run chocolate manufacturing production process that was very interesting.
I actually love seeing the little chocolates being made and packaged.
Oh, there were some artisan chocolate makers putting fillings in, which I think they call them pralines, and
there was teaching classes going on.
There were classes.
Yep.
There was a chocolate fountain. There was some sample chocolates because we needed more food. And we ended in the cafe having hot chocolate and actually probably felt a bit chocolated out.
Yeah, I think we'd had enough chocolate.
But
it was a really good tour, a really good museum, and the chocolate was delicious. Day 7 was our day in Cochem, which is a magnificent Moselle river town where the castle takes pride of place. It dominates the town. Here we divided up for the morning. I opted for the hiking tour to the Gerlei suspension bridge, whilst you, Leonie, opted for a guiding walking tour inside of the magnificent Cochem castle. We were bussed from Cochem. It was probably about 30 minutes into the forest. We had a beautiful hike. It was probably a 12-kilometre round trip. The suspension bridge is only about 10 years old. It's 350 metres long, so it's a significant piece of engineering. It spans the valley between Moorsdorf and Strasbourg. And we hiked. It was pretty easy. There were berries as we were walking through the forest, which we foraged. We were eating berries, blackberries and lingonberries, blueberries out of our hands. So that was a really fun thing to do. And I would personally, the views from the bridge were mesmerising. I would personally recommend this excursion to anybody, as long as you don't have fear of heights, I guess.
do you think I would have liked it?
I think you would have been fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
But we'll never know.
Yeah, I don't know because I know how I can freeze when there's height, so I don't know. Anyway, I really liked what I did.
Yep, well, tell us, what did you do?
So basically we walked from the ship across the river and met a minibus which took us up to the castle. I was glad about that because it seemed like not a long way, but a steep way. Had an internal guided tour of the castle and then a minibus back, and then a guided tour of the town.
We opted to take the Uniworld free bicycles out for a spin. The Moselle River is super flat. It's got great bike paths either side of the river. We cycled out for about an hour, had a break, turned around and cycled back. It was a really nice couple of hours in the sun, and we were surrounded by the cliffs with the vineyards somehow attached to the cliffs.
Somehow, yeah. That was a lovely afternoon. And again, free bikes on board, helmets on board, sign a waiver and away you go.
Back on board at 4 p.m, I got a major case of FOMO for not getting to see the castle. So luckily Leonie agreed to climb up to the top again, and I'm glad that we did because we had a fantastic view, or I got to see a fantastic view of the castle as well. So thank you, Leonie. A lot of activity for that day, but boy, we saw a lot, and we actually really loved Cochem.
We did. Day 8 was another treat of treats. In fact, really stood out this day.
Wow, you're going to call it, are you?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Today was our day in the Roman town of Trier, which many believe to be Germany's oldest town. Regular viewers to this channel would know that we both love all things Roman. So suffice to say that Trier is a Roman lover's heaven. This was the day we could have gone to Luxembourg and we didn't. So tell us about Trier.
Trier was ancient Rome's most northern capital for a period. Emperor Constantine lived here for 6 years. And at this time, when he was living here, it was the second most important city in the Roman Empire after Rome, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
Trier's Roman gate, called the Porta Nigra, or Black Gate, is the finest example of a Roman gate we've personally yet seen.
Yep.
And added to this, our jaws just dropped when our guide showed us the Basilica of Constantine, which was basically a throned roof room, which is intact, except for a wall that they took down and put back up in the Middle Ages.
Long story, it didn't fall down. We won't bore you, but it didn't fall down. They took it down.
Well, it was Roman. Why would it fall down?
Yeah, well, that's true.
It was breathtaking. Other Roman pearls of Trier were the baths, which included underground tunnels that we actually went into, where the heating for the baths occurred, and a fantastic example of a Roman bridge.
Yep. Apart from the Roman stuff, which we could go on and on about, Trier is much more. It's old town, built, or some of it.
You could actually go to Trier and not see any of the Roman buildings and still think it was a magnificent picture postcard town.
Absolutely. The market square dates in the 1400s, beautiful picture postcard German buildings. We'd seen some in Cochem, which I think in German is actually more like Cochem, but however you pronounce it. But this was our second look. We had lunch on our own that day, not back on the ship. We found a spot in the market square, had beers, and I had wiener, so sausages, and
I had schnitzel.
Yeah, schnitzel, okay. There were buskers playing. It was a Saturday, so it was really busy with locals because Sundays the shops are closed.
Yeah, Trier seemed like really alive as well.
And we just, marvelled at what a gem it was. Wanted to go back so we have time to go into the cathedral, which we didn't even mention, which was incredible. And the Roman gate, you can go inside as well. And I'm sure there's plenty of other things. But it was a first taste. And
no, we'll happily return to Trier in the future.
Indeed.
Day 9, we continued in the Moselle Valley, and today the highlight was Bernkastel. Our tour guide, Pete, who we actually loved and thought was terrific, he'd really been selling and pushing Bernkastel hard all trip. In fact, he advised us not to do the active bike riding tour, which was a bike ride along the Moselle, the banks of the Moselle, and instead spend our time visiting Bernkastel. So we took that advice, and in his words, Bernkastel is the home of Hansel and Gretel and is a true gingerbread storybook German town. Pretty high claims.
Yeah. On that, other people did do the bike ride and they said they loved it. But I'm not sorry that we didn't. I'm glad that we...
No, I'm glad we went to Bernkastel.
We looked. It was a beautiful town. Half timbered houses. Some of them were a bit twisted, a bit sunk. It was all a bit magical. We had a guided walking tour. pointing out various highlights.
You opted for a wine tasting?
Yep, I did, in a cellar. And you didn't want it, Andrew?
No, I couldn't get enough of the town, to be honest. So I wandered around and took in these beautiful warped and tough falling down buildings.
Yeah. So, again, we both chose to do different things and enjoyed what we both did, then came back together and enjoyed hearing about what the other one did.
Yep.
Day 10. Today we opted again for the active excursion, which was another bike ride. This time another 25 kilometres along the Rhine River, famous for its Rhine castles.
The bike path was flat and easy, and the Rhine River was beautiful to ride past. A mixture of forests. We passed some small towns, and we had views of multiple castles along the way, with river views the whole way. Again, this ride, being 25 kilometres, was you needed to have some level of cycling capability to do
You did.
it.
This was my favourite bike ride.
Why?
I thought it was the most scenic.
Okay.
They were all flat. All of them were flat, so that wasn't an issue. The first one was too easy for me. The second one was very windy and not as scenic as this one was.
So you're a hard person to please?
Yeah, I'm just being honest. The one we did ourselves was really beautiful as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this was my favourite. But I was tired by the end.
Okay. So
it was
right
enough.
length for you.
It was enough for
Yeah.
me. Yep.
Back on board that afternoon, we cruised brilliant sunshine. We actually sat on the sun deck, marvelling at the beauty of the Rhine and its castles. Might have got a little bit of sunburn. Mid-afternoon, we stopped at Boppard, a small town on the banks of the Rhine. Here, Uniworld provided another free walking tour, which, surprise, surprise, had some incredible Roman town walls and fortifications that were still visible and, you know, in amazing condition, 3 metre thick walls. Boppard is a quaint little town. There's flowers everywhere, right on the banks of the Rhine, and we happily spent a couple of hours wandering around.
We did. It was lovely. Day 11 was more scenic cruising of castles of the Rhine. We passed the famous Lorelei Cliff and passed by around 40 castles over these 2 days. It was a gorgeous morning, virtually castles in your field of vision at all times. We kept pinching ourselves. It was like it wasn't real.
No, it was very special.
Yeah, castle after castle. If you ever have the opportunity to do this stretch of the river, take it.
Look, it was actually a bit cold on deck after being sunburnt the afternoon before. It was a bit of a surprise.
You went up in your board shorts and came straight back down.
Yeah, I was back like an elastic band springing back. It was very, very cold. But Uniworld, think of everything. They had these thick, luscious, monogrammed velvety blankets that we draped over us. We still sat up on the sun deck, and the cold wasn't a problem.
No, it was beautiful. That afternoon, we docked in Rudesheim. It's spelt Rudesheim, but I think you say it Rudesheim, the home of Riesling wine in Germany. We boarded a mini tourist train that all the towns had, but this was put on by Uniworld. A mini train at the dock, quick tour of the town through some vineyards, which gave a nice aspect down to the river and the town. And then we wandered around at our leisure through the town. There were some great shops, bars, wine stores, wine kiosks.
That evening, we opted to join another of Uniworld's included special tours, which was, I think, one of the real stars of this itinerary. It was a trip to Johannesburg Castle, or Schloss Johannesburg, which is a Riesling winery just outside of Rudesheim. At Johannesburg, we toured their 18th century underground cellars, which were candlelit, filled with barrels of aged Riesling, and the whole thing just oozed atmosphere and character. It was one of the most special nights of the trip. We loved it.
We did.
Day 12 was our day in Speyer, or Speyer. How do we say it? Speyer? Speyer, okay.
Yeah. So, again, we went on the lovely Uniworld bus, not very far, to the Doktorenhof, if that's how you say it, Vinegar Cellars, a small family business. Immediately we were ushered into the tasting room, and we were each presented with this beautiful long-stemmed hand-blown tasting glass. We really wanted to take some home, but
they just weren't going to make the journey back.
We didn't think they were, but we loved them. And we started our vinegar tasting journey.
So who would have thought that you could not only drink vinegar, or that there were 40 different varieties of vinegar that the team had made, but I've got to say, they're actually all delicious.
We went into a few different rooms after the tasting. Each of them were like a film set. Plus we got to dress in special vinegar robes.
Well, I think you really loved that, but yeah.
So did you?
No, I
didn't. There were candles, again, like the previous night, real candles lit. It was very atmospheric. And then, of course, and we learnt about the production. Of course, you went up in the shop where there was no pressure to buy.
There was no pressure,
like
but
everyone
we did actually buy a couple of bottles. So,
we did. We hope they'll make the journey. We did. Yeah, we really... sometimes a surprise is a good thing.
Day 13, our journey continued along the Rhine. It was our Strasbourg day, and what a gem Strasbourg is. Is it French or is it German? Uniworld organised a half-day walking tour of Strasbourg, and we learned all about its Roman, then French, then German, then French, then German, then French history. It certainly is a unique part of Europe, with clear influences from both countries today. Even the street signs are in both French and German. Great history, a beautiful cathedral, stunning half-timbered houses, beautiful flowers everywhere. I think great pride taken by its residents. But I think the jewel is the various rivers and streams that cut through the old town known as Petite France.
Little France.
Yeah, it was a beautiful city. We would have liked to have spent more time there, but we had to keep powering on. Basel, Switzerland was calling. Day 14 was our day in Basel. We were really excited today because we'd chosen the hiking tour into the Swiss Alps with a picnic.
We got off the boat and were met with beautiful Uniworld coaches.
The ride itself was fantastic, through past lakes and seeing the beautiful Alps through the windows.
Took us straight to the cogwheel train, which was very cool. Quite a lot of people on it, but we had a special area reserved just for our Uniworld group.
Yeah, how special was that?
Yeah.
Before we knew it, we were off on the cogwheel. We passed waterfalls, beautiful trees. There were valleys with pine trees and grass and cows grazing.
It was breathtaking, although we hadn't seen what we were yet to see then. So we got off at the top of Mount Rigi at this hotel, walked up a little bit further to the very top, and the views were just undescribable.
Yeah, look, lakes and views over Lucerne as far as the eye could see, really, it was breathtaking.
Breathtaking. Then our hike started. It was downhill, which I actually found quite slippery. So wear walking shoes, or the best ones you've got. We went into this cheese factory and had a great demonstration by this
of
girl,
how the cheeses are made.
The cheese maker, how the cheeses are made, the whole process.
Then we got taken into what I can only describe as a cathedral of cheeses.
Yeah.
We saw them being washed. We saw them being polished. It was really interesting. We actually learned a lot about how cheeses were made.
And then we got a tasting. Then we continued downhill a bit further to our picnic lunch.
What a spot.
Our guide had set up an open fire, and you can see this lunch that was provided by Uniworld. It was way too much. Yummy. And then to top it off, that beautiful sausage sizzle, Swiss style.
On an open fire.
On an open fire.
Now, you really loved the hike back because you got to walk past the cows.
Oh, the cows. We heard the cows first, the bells chiming, and then they all walked past us, and it was, honestly, I felt like Heidi.
I thought you were going to get bowled over, but
I was too busy being Heidi.
Too busy being a photographer. Then it was time, sadly, to come back home, and we had one final treat, which was the ferry ride back to Lucerne. How picturesque was that?
Yeah, that was gorgeous.
What a great day.
Yeah, I love the cogwheel down too. It was a different route than we took up. A final day of our trip with Uniworld.
Day 15.
Checkout day. We left our bags outside our suite doors, not the night before, like sometimes you have to, just half an hour before we were being picked up. Had some brekkie, heartfelt goodbyes to our Uniworld family, and time to begin reflecting on the wonderful trip that we've just completed.
Now, Leonie, if I take it back to the beginning, 5 countries in 15 days, the Rhine, the Moselle, the Belgium Grand Discovery. What did you think?
I loved it. There's no way that we could have seen everything that we saw in 15 days if we were doing this on our own, except maybe if we hired a car and did it ourselves, but that would have come with a whole lot of stress.
Well, we wouldn't have known about these towns that we are raving about,
No,
or the experiences that we had.
we wouldn't have had
They're just not things you could organise yourself.
No, we would have done what we always do when we self-drive, hired a car, stayed in accommodation that was not really great, turned up somewhere, had a bit of a wander around, maybe had lunch, gone on to the next place. So compare that with what we had, there's no comparison. I loved it, and I love river cruising, and doing it with Uniworld, which was true luxury. It was just, I can't say enough good about it.
I think you liked it.
I think I liked it.
So, Leonie, what were your highlights?
The bike rides,
Mm-hmm.
the cellars at Schloss Johannesburg, I think, Trier, Cochem, Bernkastel, Strasbourg as well, but I had been there once before, so I had high expectations. Gliding along the river. If you haven't done it before, you've got to try it. It's just beautiful. Now, I know you, Andrew, were really looking forward to this trip, so tell me what you thought.
I loved it too. It's pretty much ditto to that list of highlights that you had. There's nothing that I disagree with.
Always better if I go first.
The bike rides were a real highlight, and Trier, I think Trier was the standout for me. Loved it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I also loved the serenity of cruising canals and European rivers. And I loved the service, the 6-star service, and the food and beverage offer on board SS Victoria. The point of this episode was to highlight what a fantastic itinerary the Rhine, Moselle and Belgium Grand Discovery is in its own right. This is an itinerary we would happily recommend to our viewers, but the beauty of YouTube is you don't have to just take our word for it. The footage we captured over the past 15 days perfectly and accurately depicts what you'll get to see and enjoy if you take this same itinerary in the future. Highly recommended.
Once again, we want to thank Uniworld very much for hosting us on this cruise. Our opinions and footage are our own. But as they say, a picture paints 1,000 words. So watch this and work out for yourselves if this is an itinerary that you might be interested in taking in the future.
If you like this episode, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and feel free to drop us a comment about this itinerary or about Uniworld in general.
Our next episode will be a trip to Morocco with Intrepid. So not a cruise, a land tour. We've never travelled with Intrepid before. We've never been to Morocco before. So we look forward to bringing you this episode and letting you know what we think.
So sadly, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.